What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. I want to give you guys some Marcos El Chino Maidana updates in this particular video. Now, it was uncertain if Maidana would fight this year, and it's still uncertain. However, this picture just surfaced, and he's looking like he's actually shaved some of the pounds. Now, I did several videos on this, talking about how Maidana had ballooned up in weight, and he had packed on some weight. So he hasn't officially started a training camp, but it looks like he might have been doing something because he doesn't look quite as big as in the other pictures that were leaked. And his manager, Catorsi, is saying that he's slated to get back to the gym, trying to shave pounds next month. And possibly he'll come back this year, November, December-ish. One of the rumored opponents, the chatter, is Maidana versus none other than Showtime Shawn Porter. So let me start off by saying this. If you're a fan of my channel, you followed me for a while, it's no secret that I'm a huge Marcos Maidana fan. I like what he brings to the table. He's tough. He battles adversity and comes back. He has an underrated and underappreciated resume. He was willing to work on his skill set and his craft at a later point in his career. Like before, I don't know if you guys know this, before Robert Garcia, from what I've heard little tall tales and things about Maidana. They said he didn't have a trainer at one point. They said he would just party. He was in Puerto Rico just hanging out and not really training. So you got to mention and keep in mind fights like with Amir Khan. He was beating guys around that time, and he gave Khan a run for his money, and he wasn't even properly conditioned. So he was doing that like the Victor Ortiz and all those fights. From what I heard, he wasn't really training properly. He wasn't really vested in boxing. He's never been a gym rat kind of guy. So you got to put that in perspective. So when he's giving Khan, even though he lost that fight, he's giving him a run for his money. That was off pure heart that he got back up and determination in the first round, because Khan leveled him in the first round with a wicked body shot, nasty stuff. And he was able to give Khan problems in the championship rounds. We seen him hurt in the Josesito Lopez fight. His thigh or leg got numbed by a punch, and then Josesito Lopez was almost bullying him in that section. Then he comes back to stop Josesito Lopez. So I've always liked Marcos Maidana. I want him to come back to the welterweight division. It just makes the already stacked division better, in my opinion. And Mayweather-Berto's been announced, and a lot of people don't like it or whatever. I've already talked about the particular fight. Not the best fight in the world. But one thing that I really like about Mayweather-Berto is Mayweather is booked. The reason I like that is because there's a lot, like I just said, it's a stacked division. There's a lot of talent. The talent pool is great in the welterweight division. But I feel a lot of those other guys are taking soft touches and not taking the types of fight that would get them the ultimate respect and the ultimate notoriety, because they're holding out like, oh, I don't want to take anything too challenging, holding out, hoping to get that golden ticket. Listen, everybody wants that Mayweather shot. A lot of people, oh, I'm going to KO him. I can beat him. He's getting old. Everyone wants that. It's a huge payday. You'll get even the people like Victor Ortiz. He wasn't doing movies before the Mayweather fight. After the Mayweather fight, he started getting into Hollywood and other fights and stuff. So realistically, it's big business. I understand it. But I don't think fighters should hold up their whole careers waiting for that opportunity. Keep proving yourself. Keep fighting the fights that are going to get you the ultimate respect. And then that fight will probably present itself. Because if anything, people would have a legitimate claim to say Mayweather is ducking. If they're killing all the top competition, you know what I mean? Like, let's say Amir Khan beat Shawn Porter, then he fought Keith Thurman or Kell Brook and beat one of them. What is he going to say? No one's going to say, oh, Amir Khan's not ready for a Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be like, damn, Mayweather really needs to fight him. Because you already have people saying that now. And if you look at Khan's resume, and this is not just Khan particularly, it's all of these guys at welterweight for the most part. All the top stars, a lot of their resumes still need work, in my opinion. That's what I like about Maidana. You look at Maidana, and this is what I mean by need work. You look at Maidana, his resume has good names on it. And he fought guys like Eric Morales, a Hall of Famer. He fought guys like Victor Ortiz. Victor Ortiz was the Canelo. He was the guy they were pushing to be the next Golden Boy, the next Oscar de la Hoya. Now, what I like about that is he was the underdog in those fights versus Broner. He wasn't the favorite. He was the underdog. He was the guy that they were bringing in expecting him to lose, and he pulled the upset with Victor Ortiz. He pulled the upset with Adrian Broner. That's why I like and respect Maidana. Even in fights like Mayweather, he still gave him no chance. They said, oh, another flat-footed Latino. and he gave Maidana a tougher fight than Pacquiao did, who was the fighter of the decade and the guy that people thought would knock out Mayweather or beat him, right? And Maidana, his first performance versus Mayweather warranted the second one, and he gave Mayweather, like, there were some clear definitive rounds where you couldn't even give it to Mayweather. And you look at a lot of, like, look at Robert Guerrero versus Mayweather or Canelo versus Mayweather. Look at those first 3 rounds. Even if you gave Canelo or Guerrero some of those rounds, like in the first 3 rounds, they weren't like definitive. When Maidana fought Mayweather, the rounds he won and you couldn't even give it to Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? That's why it made it a good fight. That's what I like about Mayweather-Berto. It eliminates him so these guys can get back to fighting the fights that they need to fight. Now, Amir Khan, we'll do a little rundown. Amir Khan, in my opinion, has a good resume, but he's in a new division. So beating Barreras and the guys that you did beat in a lower division, you're at a different spot in your career. So totality, he has a solid resume, but he has to do more at welterweight. You know what I mean? Luis Collazo, who did he really beat? Victor Ortiz coming off a layoff and an injury. That was cool. They used that momentum. First fight at welterweight, not bad, but not really the best. We knew Luis Collazo, even at that point, hadn't been ranked the top 3 or top 5 even welterweight than Devin Alexander. He stalled out his career and didn't take the fight when it was initially presented to him, hoping to get a Mayweather fight, and then Devin Alexander ended up losing his belt to Shawn Porter, and after Khan blew Devin Alexander out of the water by beating him thoroughly, but he was no longer a champion at that point. And then he fought Chris Algieri coming off a loss, and now he wants the Mayweather fight. So to me, it's strong performances, but it's still not the best welterweight. Now, if you beat, again, Kell Brook or Keith Thurman or Porter or 2 of those guys, or one of them even, you know what I mean? You have more ground to stand on. Same thing with Keith Thurman. You look at it, he's screaming out Mayweather, Mayweather. You can't say he has a better resume than Maidana because, again, using what I said earlier in this video, Maidana was brought in to lose. When's the last time we seen Keith Thurman and he wasn't the favorite? Now, some people will say, oh, Maidana avoided Keith Thurman. That's true. He did avoid him at one point, and he didn't take that fight. But it still doesn't change Keith Thurman's resume. And I like Keith Thurman. I like all these guys. But facts are facts. Maidana was brought in to lose in some of those fights, and he pulled the upset, right? Broner, Ortiz. Keith Thurman versus Guerrero. Guerrero was the underdog. He might have been the crowd favorite, but he was the underdog on the Vegas odds and the odds of the fight. You know what I mean? Nobody was expecting Bundu to beat Keith Thurman. No one was expecting Julio Diaz to beat Keith Thurman. That's what I'm talking about. So the fact that Mayweather-Berto is on is good because now hopefully some of these other guys start clashing and just paving their own path. And that Mayweather fight or Pacquiao fight, Marquez, whatever big fight they want, those things will come if you fight the right competition. That's just what I feel. Kell Brook, put him in the same category. Shawn Porter, that was a solid win. I don't think he was, I don't know the exact odds off the top of my head. He was probably the underdog in that fight. But then after, every other fight has pretty much, he's been the favorite. Frankie Gavin, no one realistic that I know of thought Gavin or Jojo Dan was going to beat Brook. That's, again, why I like Maidana, because he comes to fight and he comes to bring it. And he needs to come back to the division because you can mix and match, round robin any of these guys, and they make for great fights. Keith Thurman versus Khan. Keith Thurman versus Maidana. Maidana versus Khan 2. Shawn Porter versus Maidana. Kell Brook versus Keith Thurman or Kell Brook versus Amir Khan. Any way you mix and match these guys, they're good fights. And that's ultimately what I want to get back to. People keep saying Mayweather and Berto. To me, I don't care as much because Mayweather's already showed me what he's about. I don't really have any questions. I know I've seen 19 years of Mayweather to know what he brings to the table. But I still have questions about some of these other guys. They're great fighters, but I still have questions. Like Keith Thurman. I've seen him clipped and he showed the heart of a champion, but I've never seen him get clipped by a guy like Kell Brook, who's a good, strong boxer puncher with momentum and an undefeated record, or a guy like Maidana, who is unorthodox, who even if you hurt him, he's going to come back stronger. I've seen him hurt by Luis Collazo, who's 34, and Khan recently had beat up. I've seen Keith Thurman get clipped by Jesus Soto Karass. Again, Maidana has stopped Soto Karass. So not world beaters, you know what I mean? So to me, Maidana coming back to the division will help shape the division. And people discredit like guys like Maidana or Danny Garcia, but truth be told, their resumes are better than a lot of dudes. You know what I mean? You look at Danny Garcia, even though it's at 140, he has more to do at welterweight since he just came to the division and only fought Paulie Malignaggi. But again, I've seen at least Danny Garcia fights where he wasn't the favorite. People expected Khan to win. They were actually talking about making a Khan versus Mayweather fight at that time, and then Danny Garcia was the spoiler. The first Eric Morales fight, whether people later switched it and said, oh, Eric Morales was too old, at the time, he was champion. Danny Garcia was little heard of. He wasn't that known, and he was the challenger, and he beat Eric Morales. Then Morales pushed the rematch clause, and he got beat again and spun around in worse, devastating fashion. You know what I mean? Lucas Matisse, people thought Lucas was going to Lamont Peterson Danny Garcia and knock him out, and he didn't do that. So to me, that's kind of what I want to see, them face that type of competition. Now, Keith Thurman, Kell Brooks, when they're fighting the right type of fight, then I can give them full credit. So that's why when it comes to Mayweather-Berto, I'm not saying this is the best fight, but I have years of history to gauge Mayweather's worth versus a guy like Keith Thurman, a guy like Amir Khan at welterweight, a guy like Kell Brook. Even in Maidana, I've seen him in the underdog roles. I've seen him in these different predicaments where he's hurt and he has to show that championship level heart and come from behind and stop his opponent. You know what I mean? I've seen him in those types of fights where he was getting outgunned by Amir Khan's speed, things like that. And he's much slower, especially at that time. That's what I want to see. Hopefully Maidana comes back. I think he's a great addition to the welterweight division. And that's what I want to get back to the welterweight picture. You know what I'm saying? So really see these guys start going for it. Go. You want the Mayweather fight? You want Pacquiao fights? Go for it. Start fighting these top level competitors. Maidana is a game challenge to anybody in the division. Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, Porter, Khan, they all need to fight each other. At least fight one of them. You know what I mean? And those are all meaningful fights with guys with good momentum, power, and some level of advantage. Like if you can't tell me Kell Brook versus Keith Thurman is not a good match where it's just you can see one person get. I can make a solid argument for both of them winning. You could say Khan versus Keith Thurman or Kell Brook. You can make a solid argument. Some people say, oh, Khan doesn't have the chin to deal with Keith Thurman. But then we never seen Keith Thurman in there with someone with the speed of Khan. So he might get outboxed. You know what I'm saying? So you could really, if you're an objective fan, you can make an argument, a strong argument, why you believe someone will get pushed through to victory in those fights. That's why I want to see those fights. Any way you mix and match them, and Maidana is just an excellent addition to that. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Maidana possibly returning in 2015. Make sure you like my video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.